Hi everyone and welcome back to me. This is number 8 now, and I suppose if you're watching this it means that you're after coming back, and I thank you for that. Morris, my friend, picked me up and took me back to his apartment, and I remember, he thought I was staying for 8 weeks, and I remember opening the bag, showing him the cigarettes and saying, Morris, as soon as I open the last packet or the last carton of cigarettes, I'm going to be looking for an aluminium budgie to take me back across the Atlantic. And that took 6.5 weeks. Now, I didn't smoke them all myself, but you know yourself, they went anyway over the course of time. Morris had a car, a lovely 2-seater car, and it was the only car in America. It was a little Pontiac. It was the only car in the whole of America that didn't have air conditioning. And I suppose, and he won't mind me saying this because it's like something I do myself. I suppose the reason he bought it was, of course, it was cheap, but it was a fine car, but you couldn't give it away. And I remember we used to be, God almighty, wish we parked. It was fine, and you go along the road, but you come up to the traffic lights in the heat, and it was like spot the Irish. You'd see all the Americans inside, and the windows up and the air conditioning going, and we hanging out the windows and panting and sweat pouring off us. Another time, and I'm just giving little observations now, and the thing about America is that it's like exactly like you see in the movies. And I was 25, completely, like I say, green. And all these things, like, sure, I was like, these were all exciting. The small things were exciting for me. One day we went into a diner, and I remember the waitress coming up and the penny on her, and she pouring the coffee, and I got to order my eggs. We were inside for breakfast. I got to order my eggs over easy. So that's like something I'd seen in the movies, and I always wanted to have the eggs over easy. And it's the small things, I'm telling you, it's the bloody small things. There was a supermarket down the road, and I used to go down to the supermarket, and I had to walk in through the front door, and the heat, you'd be baking down on top of you, and go all the way down into the back, and I'd have my head inside the fridges and the freezers for about 5 minutes before I could go shopping, before I could do anything to cool down. And I saw there was a sign up, while they did the sign, the thing, they were having a singles night in the supermarket. Yeah? And did you ever see the bit of that? And like from 7 to 9 in the evening, you could go in, and it was a singles night, I suppose, find love in aisle 5 or something. And I remember ringing my mother and telling her, and I said to my mother, I said, they're gone very bad over here. I said, they have a singles night now inside in the supermarket. And my mother, of course, says to me, she said, you could find love at a worse place. She said, you should consider getting a trolley yourself, she said, and heading the way down. But, of course, I thought it was very entertaining. Another day out with Morris, and we were going along the road, and he said he had to go to the bank, and he drove into a drive-through bank. Like all these things you see, these are things you'd hear about in the movies, and at the time I found them very, 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 very entertaining. Of course, there's no need to talk about the meat and the size of the steaks and stuff over there, because the steaks would be flying out over the plate, and I was a big meat eater at the time. But I remember being inside in, the Subway, the crowd that do the sandwiches. I was inside there one day, and they weren't here all the time in Ireland and stuff, but I went in there anyway one day inside in a shopping centre, and like as green as I was, the person that was serving me was worse. Lovely girl, but like, I'd asked for a kind of a roll, and what I thought was chips, and when I got up at the end, when she handed them out to me, it was a roll with crisps, because they call obviously crisps chips. But and I was very disappointed. I was hoping I get some lovely homemade chips or something. But didn't she ask me, she heard I was Irish, and she said to me, she asked me, did leprechauns really exist? And of course I was going to tell her no, but then, I said, there's no point in doing that. So, in fairness, I said to her, they do. You still see the odd few of myself, they're very, very, very scarce. And in fairness, she went away. She left happy enough anyway with that. Sometimes people ask me, like they say to me when I went to America, they say, I suppose it was just one party after another. And in fairness, it wasn't. You know what it was? It was just one long party. It started when I landed, and it ended when I got on the aluminium budgie to fly home. But, like, you see, the one thing the Americans can do, the Americans can barbecue, and the Irish can party. And outside there was a few lads outside there. There was Pádraig from Dublin. There was Brian from, I think he was from Kildare. There was Tony from Cork City. There was Maurice Quinlan, John Quinlan, his brother, and me. There was 6 of us. And that was a very small Irish community outside there. And these lads had gone over a few years previous with some American company that brought them over, and they were driving trucks over. The American company trained them, and they were driving lorries or trucks over in Green Bay. And it was very small, like I said, there was only 6 of us, but God, we were very close in the sense that, you know, we minded each other. They minded me more than anything. I mean, I was as green as green could be. They had a few years behind them, so they were switched on, but I was completely green, and they took me under their wing and they minded me, and I really and truly I'm so grateful to them for it. And the thing about it was like that, barbecues. God, the Americans could barbecue, and there was a barbecue nearly every day. And because we, being the Irish, we could party and we'd bring the crack with us, the music and the crack and the song and the whole lot. And we were invited to every barbecue. I said there wasn't a barbecue within a 10-mile radius that we weren't invited to. And like, there was no trouble, there was no fighting, we'd bring no trouble with us. But when the Irish were there, God, the crack was flowing. And the lads used to have hurleys inside in the boots of the car, and slitters and tennis balls and stuff. And I wasn't much of a sportsman or anything else, but I could swing a hurley all right. And after a few drinks, they'd be out on the lawn playing hurling, and Morris Quinlan would be reciting the Our Father, our Natter in Irish, or spewing away some old bit of Irish, and the old Yanks would be lapping it up, and they'd love it. And the next thing, the songs would start, and we'd be singing the Irish ballads for them. And in fairness now, like, we had some amount of fun, but it was just rolling almost one barbecue into another. But you know, like those kind of things, they're just beautiful, beautiful memories. Like you know, but I'm on about the quality of the barbecue. I remember one time we went, and there was I think he ran from Puerto Rico, and his wife was a Vietnamese American. And the amount of work and time that they would go into preparing the barbecue and the meats and the marinades, and like, this man was a chef down the town somewhere. You'd never eat the like of it. And they'd make up their own salads and their own coleslaws and all that. Like, you know, I mean, to be fair, the typical Irish barbecue is we'll go into the supermarket and get a few burgers and a few sausages and that way, and shove them on the thing, and sure, we think we're flying it. But no, in fairness, the Yanks could teach an awful, well, certainly teach me an awful lot about barbecuing anyway. But having said that, we could teach them an awful lot about partying. I want to kind of tell a story now, because I suppose it's running on in time, but we were outside there in the heat, and of course I got a notion into my head that I wanted to get a suntan. That there was no point going that far in that much heat and not coming home without a tan. Now, before that, I was never ever away on a sun holiday. And I suppose the last time that I had anything to do with I'm going to call it suntan lotion now, because to me that's what it was when I was a child, and my mother would have been probably rubbing it on me and I'd blow around the beach. But like, after that, I was quite happy and content around here. So there's no, to be fair, we had no extreme heat around here, and you'd end up getting what we call a farmer's tan, where your arms go red or black or brown or whatever the case may be, and a bit of a tan in your head, and that'd be it. And I was never one for sun anyway. I never looked for sun, so I was kind of trying to stay away from it. But anyway, I got it into my head I was going to get a tan. So, and like, I knew absolutely nothing back then. And I suppose I mightn't have been alone, but about all these different factors and these different sunblocks and all this kind of stuff. Didn't have a clue. As far as I was concerned, every bottle of them, they were all the same. There was a thing called suntan lotion, that was it. You put on the suntan lotion, you went out under the sun, you got a colour, and that was it, job done. So I remember to myself, I said, right, and I actually picked it in. I said, next Tuesday now, because the old barbecue will be gone fairly heavy for the weekend, and Monday will be another good day out. So I said, you know what, Tuesday, I go ahead and get myself an old tan. So Monday evening, anyway, I laid off the drink a bit. I only a few pints, and got up Tuesday morning, and I went into the shopping centre, and I went in. I can see all this now as I'm talking to you. I went into the pharmacy or the chemist, whatever you call it, and they had a display, and it's one of these things that turn around, you know, like a thing that we'd have used to have here along with postcards and stuff, and full up of bottles of suntan lotion, as far as I was concerned. And of course, the first thing, I never before bought them, the first thing I see, well, when I see the price, they were mad dear. So, and like, mad dear to me now was probably maybe $12 or $14, but there was no way I was going to pay that kind of money for it, because to be honest with you, I wanted to keep the money for partying. So, and I was probably only going to use it once. So I was going round and round and round the thing. And of course, I'm so bloody, you know, there's some things with me, you know, like that I'm very, very generous. I did with other things, I become very, very mean and frugal. Like, there was no way I was going to spend that money. So I was spinning the thing around and around and around. And the next thing, down the back of one of them, way down the bottom, then I find a bottle. And it was it $4 something. And I took out the bottle, and genuinely the bottle looked it looked dated. Even the tag in it looked dated. And it was a bottle of coconut oil. And there was a picture of this one, and she was as brown as a berry and a couple of palm trees or whatever, you know, and it just said coconut oil on it. And Christ, I said I was after finding, I was delighted with myself, I was after finding a bargain. So up I went anyway, paid for my suntan oil, and back out to the apartment. And they said, no, I was early enough in the morning, so I gave a couple of hours anyway. And the next thing, I said, right, time is now. So around 12 o'clock in the day, what did I do? Open the bottle, took off my top, and nearly put the entire bottle from my head right down to my waist. As much of it as I could get on, lathered and everywhere. And this is true, you know, like for years and years I wouldn't tell this story to anyone, but you know what, I'm facing 51 years now this year, and I don't really care anymore. But I find it funny now. But I had old black leather wedding shoes on me that time, and there was no way I was going to buy a pair of runners, because I said to myself, you know what, sure, I could be going home now one of these days and then I'll be spending money on runners. And I had my jeans, took off my top anyway. And of course, stupidly, I should have brought my top with me, but I didn't. I left the top behind, and I went out, and the old roads over there are concrete, you know. And I went way out just in the middle of a city. There was no scenic walks. Well, kind of out the outskirts of the city. And I started walking away out the road. And I wasn't gone long, and I could feel the heat on the shoes, never mind anything else. Down at the midday sun, and it beating down top of me. And I was walking and walking and walking, and I could feel all these kind of different sensations taking over. And I suppose the oil coming up the temperature, and I thought to myself, you know, I said I'd be browning away in ice now, you know, I said, and I'm walking away. And I remember there was a couple of people part of the car, they looked strange at me, because I suppose maybe I looked strange, and I probably did too. Sure, I thought everyone else was strange, not me, and it was the opposite way around. But, God bless us and save us, I walked and walked for a good spell, you know. I suppose I was walking about 50 minutes or more, maybe more than an hour. And in the beginning, you know, I could feel it was starting to, I could feel, like I say, all these different sensations. You could feel the heat in your back and all the rest of it. And I have a very, very high forehead. I always have, like a hairline here. And I could feel the heat up here and back here. And after about 50 minutes, now I walked, as we measured it afterwards, I walked under 4 miles, we measured it afterwards in the car. I turned around, and at that stage my shoes were nearly on fire. And of course, when I turned around, it was like on a grill. I was doing the other side myself, and the heat was coming up, and it was getting hotter and hotter and hotter. Well, you know the way they do hear about marathon runners, and they be on about walls. Well, I know all about walls, because about half a mile from home, God bless us and save us, I couldn't hardly continue no more. I hit what you'd call a bloody wall, and I got a fit in, and I started running. And God almighty, I started running. It takes it right there altogether. And the next thing I could feel myself burning and burning and burning, sizzling. And all the while inside my head, stupidly, I said to myself, you know, I suppose I'm tanning. I was telling myself that. Well, I got back anyway when I came in the door of the apartment. Morris Quinlan said to me afterwards, if he had an egg, and he had cracked the egg on the top of my forehead here, he could have fried it. There was smoke coming off me. I was sizzling. And, geez, I realised then that maybe the things weren't going according to plan. But anyway, to make a long story short, I burst out in blisters. Like, I mean, to say that I was burnt to an absolute crisp. And what I do, see the funny side of it now, the funny side of it, it was a very, very dangerous thing to do. And I gave a couple of days, I couldn't hardly move inside in the bed. It was like my skin shrunk, and I was all blisters. I was red, bloody raw. And you know, the one thing that was going on inside my head was I was convinced that effing bottle, that fucking bottle of stuff was gone off. I said as the way that was too old and it was out of date and it was gone off. Still know nothing about suntan or about the fact that I was convinced the old bottle of stuff was gone off. But God, I do know something, I never ever forget it. And I was going, I did nothing in my head but to go back to the chemist and take back the bottle and tell him that bottle was faulty, you know. But thankfully I never did, because I made a right feck idiot of myself. But a couple of years later, I went on my first sun holiday ever with Miriam, my wife, the woman I'm married to now. And I remember we were in Santa Ponsa, and after that, like I'd stay away from the sun again, never again bothered it. I said, God almighty, the experience I had. But I remember being in Santa Ponsa, and with Miriam, and the very first morning, then she'd take out a bottle we were blowing the beach, and she took out a bottle, and of course this was a bottle of Factor 50, and she handed it to me, and to put on myself. And I said, oh Jesus, no, I said, I won't touch that stuff. I won't touch it, I said, the last time I put that stuff on me, I said, I fried, you know. And she was looking at me, we weren't long going out together, and she was looking at me, she didn't say much. And I said, no, you work away there. I said, I'll stay here under the tree, you know, the little tree thing. I said, I'll stay here in the shade and let you be tanning away. I won't put that stuff near me, I said. And So it was later on today, and then she started explaining to me about factor 50 and factor 30 and factor that even knows what else. And I'm a complete authority on them now anyway. But anyway, that's kind of more or less my story. And I suppose pretty soon then after that, 6.5 weeks into the whole thing, I found myself on an airplane again heading back for London Heathrow. And I remember being on the airplane, I was sound asleep, and the next thing the air hostess wake me up, and she asked me, did I want breakfast? And of course I did, in an Irishman, I always want breakfast. And the only last time I was ever on a morning flight, I'd been on a flight with Aer Lingus, and they give you a grand little breakfast. There was a sausage and a rasher and a few things that way. And of course, if you plan once away, the air hostess, she'd give you a second one, so you'd make a good breakfast out of it. You'd have 2 of them, you know. They were always nice that way. But I remember the air hostess in the American Airlines, and she came along, and I was starving when I woke. And she came down, and she gave me, there was a banana, for this was breakfast, a banana, a little tub of orange juice, and a blueberry muffin. God bless us, I never forget it. I didn't even know what a blueberry muffin was. But that was my breakfast anyway. So, it's funny the things you remember. And everywhere I go now, because of course in every supermarket and everywhere you go now, there's blueberry muffins. And every time I see a blueberry muffin, I be thinking about my breakfast on the airplane. But landed in London Heathrow, you know, and heading home. And that was on a Tuesday. And little did I know that the following Monday I would be back on through London Heathrow Airport heading for Helsinki. And I'm going to tell you all about that next week. Thanks again for listening, and I hope I'm not going on too much, and we'll talk again soon.